to today? Well, today's Valentine's Day, or at least it was at the time I recorded this. Now I'm on helmet cam because I'm going to have my hands full. Probably going to have the missus in the workshop with me because it's going to be something we're casting for her. So ignore the absolute chaos that is my workshop. It's messy, that's kind of how it works. Now, today we're going to be taking some brass, which I've got here. This is stuff from my brother's collection, so we won't be using that. But we have a whole big pile of 38 specials, all with cracked necks and various problems. We're going to melt a bunch of them down in my little furnace here. We're going to cast that into a little heart-shaped pendant. But once we're done with that, we're then going to go back to white metal, which is about 98% tin. And we're going to cast that into the first cast. So I'm pushing the limits of what I know how to do yet again. But wait, there's more, and it's not a free set of steak knives. We're going to actually paint it with some spray paint of some kind. I've got a selection of random ones here. Then I'm going to laser etch that paint off in a pattern, and then I'm going to drop it into some ammonium persulfate, which is usually used for making circuit boards, but instead of doing circuit boards, we're going to let it etch the copper away in the brass, and hopefully it will in some way impact on the white metal. I would expect it would. And then we'll clean it all off and polish it up, and hopefully that gives a nice acid etched look in the shape of the details that I want. I haven't finished that detailing yet, but I'm going to get the first components of it done first, which is going to be casting the brass. Now, to cast the brass, we're going to use Petrobond casting sand, and we've got a little 2-part mold that was nifty enough to come with it, which I can never quite get apart. But we're going to use this little 2-part mold here. We're going to do that, and we've got some Petrobond sand in here, which actually feels like it hasn't dried out. That's nice. I forgot to put it in a bucket. So yeah, again, this is a bit of an experimental piece, so we'll see how it goes. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get the two metals to bond, but I know I can solder to brass with 60/40 tin lead solder, so I'll probably put a little bit of that on the back of the brass before I pour the white metal in. Now, a couple of you might question, no, aren't you going to melt it by casting a second time in? No, because brass has got a melting temperature of about 1100-1200 Celsius, about as hard as this thing will go. White metal I can melt on a gas flame down about 500 or 600 degrees. It's considerably lower, but that should get hot enough to melt a little bit of tin lead solder and bond into the hole, so it should work. You'll see through the process how I'm planning on doing most of this as I go along. But anyway, that's the explanation out of the way. Most of you guys are probably going to skip past this anyway, so let's just get on with it. So we've got our initial layout set up. This mold I'm going to be using to hold to cast the white metal in. I don't know how well you can see on the helmet cam here, but I'm going to cut my master out of my mold at the same time, so we'll see how that works. Now I'm going to be molding directly into MDF with the white metal because it will easily put up with it just with a little bit of graphite, but for the brass part I'm going to have to use Petrobond casting sand. So let's get this loaded into the camera, into the laser cutter, and get some timber cut, and we'll go from there. Alright, the lasering's done and I've changed my camera angle a little bit. I forgot to put these holes on the correct layout before, so it completely ignored them. We had to rerun the cut. There's our master come out. Got a nice deep depression in there, but we'll do a little bit of manual rework on that before we put it in the sand mold, and we'll cover that in powder, but that's looking good. And when that's cast, we can assemble this mold together and we can drop our brass piece in there, put this on the top, make a big pouring sprue, and we can force white metal in to that depression from there, which should be in the right position. I think that's going to work. Oakley dokley. Alright, this bit, we're going to take our casting mold, we're going to open this up. We're going to start one half at a time, so we're going to start with our bottom half. We're going to flip it up this way. We're going to put our master in here, covered in baby powder or talc. We're going to pack our sand in. I'm going to do this bit off camera, because we've got a bit of assistance today and she doesn't want to be on camera. So we'll do that bit, and then we'll show you the finished mould once we're done. But we're going to use our improvised hammer here to pack it all in. Once we've done that, we're going to flip it over, put this section on, pack in the rest of the sand, pack it in nice and hard with talc in the middle to use as parting powder, and then we'll pour that in. I'm going to make our pouring sprue and stuff out of sand and drill holes and stuff. You'll see all that when we get to it. Anyway, let's get on with it. Alright, we've got our mould mostly worked out here. We're going to lift this up and create a flat spot for it. Now we should be able to part our mould here, and we'll see if we messed up. So it's come through nice and firm. That's good. So now we need to drill a hole through here as a pouring sprue, and we need to get that bit out. It's just going to be fun. We'll probably tap it with a screwdriver and then try and pick it out with a bit of blue tack. But anyway, that's our mould done. Alright, we're operating from fairly high up here because I'm on helmet cam. Need to clean out my crucible a little bit. It's got a bit of leftover residue from the last casting in there. I'll do that. Now, this time I'm going to use some pre-melted bits of brass I've got, but this one doesn't really warrant using the brass from my late brother. I've already done a piece for the missus in that. So we're going to take bits of pre-melted brass I've used from 38 specials before, and this will be a little bit of a cleaner melt because it doesn't have to get rid of all the chrome and all the other stuff that's on there. So I'm going to end up melting way more than I'm going to need for it, but we want to create that hydraulic pressure into the mould by doing that. So where are we? We'll grab a few more bits of this, and I think we'll probably be about right at that amount. It should be plenty. Alright, I think we're going to use just that much. We'll put it in and we'll start getting things heated up. I'll turn my crucible around so the melting or the pouring the slot is in the right direction. Alright, let's get this plugged in and turned on and making an angry buzz. Alright, so we're sitting here waiting for it to come up to temperature. We're at about 900 degrees at the moment. Everything's set up. Our tools and everything are all laid off at hand. Bit of emergency water to put out a fire. Guards to protect the shins. And a couple of ingot molds for making little mini ingots with the excess stuff. So yep, we're bumped up 20 degrees now. It's starting to rise quite quickly, so we won't be far away from melting or pouring this stuff anyway. Alright, we're almost at pouring temperature. The thermostat's kicking in and out. We don't want to leave it running there too long because these filaments tend to burn out. It's already been running for about 25 minutes at the moment. Grab our pair of tongs here, do our pour, make sure that things are in arm's reach here. Both our cameras are going. Alright, get my dark glasses on, and the wind is going the right direction in here today. Alright, let's see how we go here. Right. Oh, bit of smoke out the side, which is good. We'll pour ourselves some mini ingots here. I'll get one out of there. Alright, we can turn this guy off. Not going to use that the rest of the day. We'll close it so the graphite crucible cools down quietly. Alright. Now we'll a little bit of water on here to cool it off a bit. Alright, now we'll leave it cool off for a bit. Oh, it did. That gas was pretty hot.
Yeah.
Scrape out some of that stuff. Or reuse the rest of it. Really burnt stuff can go. Right. Oh, okay, it flooded into the gap in the mould. That's why we use so much. That's alright, we can still work with that. They'll live. Oh, that could be a little bit of a screw up. I'm going to have to take a fair bit of work to clean that up. But yeah. But it is fairly it's fairly thin.
Yeah.
I should be able to cut that around for most of it. That's alright, we'll work on it, we'll get there. We'll let it cool off anyway.
Oh, yeah.
Alright, well, it's the next day. I've been agonising all night as to whether I'm going to remelt my cast or whether I'm going to finish it by hand. I'm not sure which way I'm going to go. And I have my infusion for multiple sclerosis tomorrow. I'm starting to get real foggy brain-wise. And I'm starting to get shaky and uncoordinated, and my left eye's starting to lose its eyesight a little bit, as happens towards this time of the month. So I'm going to have to call it quits for a couple of days, and then I'll make a rational decision later. More importantly, I've lost some tools that I'm going to need to do it, and I cannot think for the life of me where I put them. So traditionally I'll go and get my infusion, and a couple of days after, feeling crap after that, I'll be good and I'll start finding stuff again. But I've got to call it quits for a minute. I'll see you all later. Alright, so I've been and had my infusion, and I'm feeling a little better today. Not 100%, but yeah. So I've been flip-flopping about whether I remelt this or rework it. Still not sure what I'm going to do, but I found a distraction in the meantime. There is a native marsupial mouse, or a rat I think, that's hiding between the gap over here in my shed. Now I don't want to rat bait it because I think it's a native, but I'd like it out of my shed. It's starting to chew up things, including a vintage computer up there that I'd really rather it not. So what do I do about it? Well, I have this cat attractant. It's a pheromone spray. Pretty sure a little squirt of that might convince it to leave, and it's up there right now. I just scared it up into the top. So I might get up on my chair, move a few things around and give a squirt of this before I finish doing this bit of jewellery. Alright, so I really don't recall that pheromone spray stinking quite so much. But my shed's basically uninhabitable at the moment. So hopefully it is for the rat too. Oh God. Well, now I want to vent some air out of here. Get my ventilation going. I might get my spare one in here as well. Anyway, we'll be back. Alright, so this begins the noisy part of the video. I've got both extraction fans running, blowing out the window. Problem is, I want to use that vise to do this. So yeah, let's get stuck into this. I figure if I cut this down with an angle grinder, I can just remelt it when I'm ready. But yeah, I've got to let this ventilate for a couple of minutes. Alright, well, where we are now, this is quite hot, so I'm holding it in the casting glove. I've got most of the junk trimmed off it. This little bit in the top here is going to be fun. I'm going to end up having to do that manually. Although the thought occurs I could leave that there and drill the hole for the chain in that material. I'm not sure yet. I probably will have to reduce that because the mold that I need to fit this into is going to require that is the exact shape. So that could be tricky. Although this might only be 3mm thick, I might be able to push that up the back. I'm going to have a think. I'm going to give it a preliminary sand here after I cool it off, and then we might remove this sprue off the back. In fact, I might even be able to leave that on there actually. I've had a change of thought while I've been talking to you guys. I'm going to experiment. We'll see what happens. Anyway, we'll be back after I put this on the linisher. Alright, well, I'd planned to use the linisher, but two problems had happened. One, I had to unplug my lead from the extraction fan that I'm using, and two, this is all migrated over to one side. So that means I need to adjust my belt tension here. Now this is a belt sander my old man made based on one that he'd seen where he used to work. Used to be the State Electricity Commission, I believe, in those workshops. So he pretty well did a lot of this design off memory. So I can see a lot of the things he's got in common with me. That belt is slightly tracking to one side now. Back it off a little bit, it should stay there. Alright, now I have original part. I'm going to trim this a little bit first to make it a little bit easier to hold. Now crucially, I would do this on a bench grinder, but brass is nasty in that it clogs up grinding wheels. That's why I'm using this bit. Got the sharp bits off, that should be easier on my hands. Now this gives me a bit of a handle to grind things down with. I want to try and get the sharp corners off first that might tear the belt. I hope you guys can see what I'm doing here. So it's going to be fun here. I'm trying to work the bits of the belt that are still got good sandpaper on them. But this belt is pretty shagged. It's going to be a lot of work, this. But I guess for the recipient of this, the more work I put into it, the more valuable it is, I guess. So I think she appreciates that I didn't take the easy way out and just recast it. But I'm starting to regret the decision a bit here. It's going to take a bit of time to get this right. And of course brass gets very hot, so I'm going to have to go and find a tub of water to cool this off. So I might get some of the concentrating done with the helmet cam off, and we'll be back and see where I'm at. Though that is grinding down fairly quickly, I need to keep it cool. Anyway, we'll be back in a minute. Alright, so that's most of the shaping done here. We've got all that extra slag off. I'm leaving this little bridge in here aside from the fact that it's a nightmare to manually do with needle files, I think it might change the design slightly. There is a little high spot there I've just noticed. I'll clean that in a second. But crucially, this might fit into here. Let's have a look. That might sit nice and flush. Certainly well enough that when I bolt this on, that should pour into that section. I'm hoping. Now I was going to use this back plate on here. Now I could easily drill a hole, but I think I'm going to wad it up with blue tack, and that should seal the hole. You see this piece here is kind of causing a problem. We'll figure that out. While I was searching for the tub for the water, I also found what's left over of a previous project, the offcuts from my soap when the COVID panic first hit and people bought soap out and were going a little crazy. This is the stuff I made from tallow, and this is a eucalyptus one, and it smells mostly of eucalyptus now. It's had considerable number of months to set, so it actually smells kind of good. Now, somewhere here I have a big wad of blue tack. We'll move back from the diversion slightly. This stuff's had molten brass in it, so it's got powdered byproducts in here of some description. I'm not sure if I should really be handling that with my hand, but yeah, it happens. So I think what we're going to do here, so I'm going to screw these two pieces together first, plonk that on and put some blue tack on. So let's get that happening. Alright, so our mould is screwed together loosely to allow a little bit of air gap through here. That's important. Now we're going to put just a smidgen of graphite powder in here. We're going to work it in with our finger. That's quite important and will make sense a bit later. Alright, drop a graphite powder out. Alright, now I need to go inside and put a little bit of solder on here just to help the bonding to that surface, because that layer will be quite thin. I've also got the shakes at the moment. That happens on and off after I have this MS infusion for a few days. So alright, I'm going to go inside. Well, that's going to be sitting considerably off that surface, but I guess we can grind the white metal down till it shows through. I'll go inside, put a bit of solder, get some fresh blue tack, and seal all that up ready for casting. Alright, let's go inside. Okay, well, we're inside, and you'll have to excuse the fan noise in here too. I have some more blue tack, which is a Bostik product, by the way. Handy stuff. Now we're going to need a little bit of that to start with to hold this while we solder it. It comes in strips like this. This stuff holds up to molten brass and white metal and crazy temperatures. I mean, I can reuse it after I've used it for white metal, but after doing brass it's not real great. But I'll get this guy in here. I'm going to take a little bit of 60-40 tin lead solder here, and because this is flux core stuff, this should bond pretty well. Soldering iron's nice and hot. We're just going to leave it sit here for a little bit. It's certainly not going to be hot enough. Okay, we don't want a huge amount, we just want a little blob there just to help the bonding. I'm going to lift this up off my table surface. That's important because of what I'm about to do, which is find Mr. Stoner Torch Blue here, and heat it till the solder actually bonds properly. Might take a moment, but I want it to form an alloy with the brass, even though brass is already an alloy. Right, I'm going to get a little bit of flux paste onto this. Where is my flux paste? In a little syringe here. This is going to be quite hot, so squeeze a little bit out. Come on. Whoa. Okay, we've got a lot out. We're going to use a lot then. Alright. Now let's get this nice and hot. Although at this point, this is probably quite suitable. This will do the job. I want something to manipulate that slightly just to see if it will flatten out a bit. Yep, that's good. That's probably all we need in there. Alright, to go and get this into the mould. Alright, this guy's still a little bit too hot to handle. It's hot stuff. Right, so it is going to be a little bit higher than I'd hoped, but we are going to be reworking this significantly. A lot of the designs that I do generally prefer to work on, I try and get mostly a finished product straight out of the machine or the casting process, just with a bit of polishing. But this one is sort of a prelude to the opals. I'm trying to do a little bit more work on. Right, so that should protect the screw heads or the screw threads. It should allow me to pour metal into here, which it's going straight onto that piece, so that should slow the velocity of the metal down a little bit. I'm leaving the edges here as an air gap. I haven't scribed them like I sometimes do. Now we need to make a pouring head on, or a header on it. I refer to it as a sprue a lot of the time, and that's probably not correct terminology. I think header is the word we're looking for. Basically, we want to create some hydraulic pressure, but with the metal. So I need to make sort of somewhere that I can pour a blob of metal in the top that will force it down through the hole. You can see why I get through a lot of blue tack here. I'm just throwing away a whole packet into this. So I get all of this stuff sorted. Now, the original form of this is actually kind of handy. We can stack a few of these things here. Oh, that one is pretty well not stackable anymore, but that's alright. We'll get these like so. I'm going to make myself a little ring of the stuff, and we're going to stick it across the top of here. That will deal with the screw heads, and that should create quite a significant header. I'm going to join it on the sides here just to keep it in place a bit, although once we put 600-degree metal in here it's going to get quite soft, but apparently hard enough to stop the metal getting out of hand. So alright, that should cast the face into it, but my shakes are now getting so bad I think I'm going to have to stop and eat, so we might go and do that and we will be back. Alright, well the food is done and we're back out in the shed, and we're going to put our mould in the vise. Now, we need to rearrange things a little bit here. This is what we're going to be using to melt our white metal because it melts considerably cooler. I am headbutting things and I've got gloves in the wrong spot. Let's collect our gloves up. Not that I'll probably need those guys. And my helmet cam is a little bit taller than the roof mounting up here, so I continue to headbutt that. Angle grinder needs to come out of the way of the flames, and I'm going to need to find a pair of pliers to grab that out. I don't know where they are. There are pliers under here somewhere. I got given a whole new set of them recently. Screwdrivers? No. Well, I'll find a pair of pliers at some point. Anyway, let's get this heating up. Right, we want to go turn our gas on and get that heating up. There's already some white metal in there. We'll let that do its thing for a bit and we'll find pliers while we're waiting. Alright, so some time ago I decided to clean up and I made this little rack system here, but because I'm tall I don't often see down there. And I think the pliers, the exact pliers I'm looking for, are in there somewhere. Those ones need oiling. These guys will do the job, although what have we got there? Some big guys here. These will probably work better. Okay, and we have our scraper, which I use for scraping off the slag. I don't often have to do that in this, but there's reasons for that I'll go into in another video. This is going to take a little while to soften up, probably about 10 minutes. So we'll be back once that's done. Now our metal is mostly liquid now. I'm going to let it get up to temperature a little bit more. One thing to be careful of, these guys, I ducked inside for 2 minutes and came back and I had a flame coming out of this hole. The cylinder wasn't seated properly on the seal. There was a recall on these guys for exactly that reason. They can overheat and the cylinder can blow up. So yeah, generally be wary of that. Now this is kind of hot having my hands over here, and this guy is in the way, so we're going to move our light back out of the way slightly, and we're going to need some gloves. I used to have filming gloves, or what I called filming gloves, a pair of TIG welding gloves with a hole in one finger that I jokingly referred to as the finger hole, so that I could I could use touchscreens. It's alright, I had to stop and think about what I was doing for a minute. And sorry guys, priority goes on my safety rather than explanations of random things. Now we're going to skim the crap off the top. Alright, we should be about right to pour now actually. That's not quite straight, but that should do. Now I need a hammer or something heavy. My improvised hammer is not even here. Here's my improvised aluminium hammer. That should work. There's a reason why I want that. So let's pick up my improvised hammer here, and we'll do this. That should be enough. Okay. We can turn our metal off. We don't need to cast anymore. I'm really hoping that worked, but we won't know for a few minutes yet. We've got to let it cool off. So I could probably accelerate the process, but for the result that I want, I need it to cool down slowly. So I'll leave that sit for a bit and we'll come back and see what it looks like. Alright, we're waiting for it to cool off a bit here. It's still quite hot. I don't know what's on here that's brown. Okay, I left this sitting beside my wax compound, my buffing compound. That melted it. Okay, well, I guess we can burn that off. It's still quite molten. We'll probably get this bit off the top if we cool it a bit. Because I'm pretty sure the bit below will have cooled off by now. Now let's pop you out a bit. Oh, don't touch it with your fingers, guys. It's a bad idea. Okay. It'll go down there. Now, usually at this point, I can get the spatula under here and knock this off. Alright, well it's certainly gone through the hole, that's good. The old chunk can go back in to get remelted. Alright, at this point I guess we'll flip it over and see. Actually, before I do that, I'm going to clean this blue tack up, so we'll do that and we'll be back. Alright, we're going to lift it off the mould. Like a wriggle. It's poured in there nicely. Okay. Peel our blue tack off. Alright. That is looking good. So we need a bit of water here. There's our viewfinder looking, that's good. With our pointy nose, we'll grab it like so. And we will drop into the cool water. Alright, leave that sit for a few minutes and then we'll do some machining. Alright, so we're now at the point where we've got to do this guy. And I'm bumping my mic out of the way. So, I'm going to grind that stub down until the surface looks flush. And we'll see if it bonded in there. It feels fairly firm, so I think we'll be good. Let's give this a go. And this is 98% tin. It's very soft. So again, I'm using the belt sander to avoid clogging things. We're getting warm, so she's got to go for a dip in the water again, just to cool it off. And we'll give it another go. Coming down. It's going to take a little bit of work here. Yeah, we'll get there. Right, I'll keep at this, and we'll be back once I've got some results coming through. Alright, we've got a pretty clear defining line now. Let's come into the sunlight here. See, whoa, if we can see it right. So that's looking really nice there. I'm not sure what angle it's going to work at the camera here. It's certainly blinding me. But we've got our heart within a heart. That's really nice. So, I'm going to ask my, the recipient of this, my financial manager, I'm going to ask her and see if we really want to etch that or not, or whether I want to polish it. Either way, I do have to polish it, so I'm going to show where we're at the moment, and then we'll act on that as we go. So yeah, back in a moment. All right, so let's have a look here. There's a bit of a dry off. This is just with some 400 grit paper. There are some inclusions in the back. Let's go out into the sunlight and see what this looks like again. Okay, so I did notice when I was polishing this, when it got hot, there was a little bit of flux worked its way out between the middle. So there's probably a bit of an air pocket under there. But I'm going to persevere with this anyway. It's the first one of this type that I've made. There's some inclusions in the back. I could fill them in, but you know what? I think it's going to just add character. There's a bit of blue tack stuck on the side here. We will wipe that off. But anyway, this is all I can do for the moment. I've got to go and pick up my apprentice, so we will be back shortly. So just outside here is a bird table. We have a few local magpies. There's one guy, or one lady we call Lady. She's got some feather problems on her head. We rescued her after a vehicle accident. She's recently had a child, which I've nicknamed Fluffball. I had to rescue from a fence. Since then, it follows me around everywhere. But it's plenty old enough to eat for itself, but it still nags Mum for food. Sounds like quite a bit. Hey, Fluffball, have you learnt to feed yourself yet? I thought so. Stop nagging your mother. You're old enough to do it yourself. Anyway, back to the project at hand. I made some soft jaws, and I've been putting into the vise like this to work on it. I've got the edges nicely starting to polish down. I need to get these corners worked out a bit. They're the difficult bit, but I've just got to work at this for quite a while. So yeah, I think I'll come up with a method to do that. I think I'll put it back in the soft jaws and just work on that corner once I've got this top bit polished out and down a bit. Anyway, I've still got a bit to go, so I'll see you when I'm done with that bit. Now, coming out again, Fluffball. Right, so everybody, say hello to Fluffball. This is the magpie we rescued from the fence, who's the son or daughter, I can't tell at this stage, I think possibly daughter, of Lady, who we rescued from the car accident in the road at the front of our place. I know the area looks a bit messy out here, but I just had to show you a Fluffball. It's my favourite. Don't you just love the sound of naggy children? I'm going to put up with them while I do this. We're on to the 1200 paper, by the way. This is how I ended up working out how to get those curves. So it's starting to look pretty nice now, but I just have to cycle through all these different angles and wet my paper down a bit and then work on it like this. We're going to be here for a while. One thing this method does too is, because I'm pulling the paper down, it sort of curves around the corner just a tiny little bit, and it takes those sharp jagged edges off it. Makes it feel a bit more like a polished pebble rather than like a freshly cut precision machined piece of metal. So that's feeling pretty good there. It's looking alright. I'll do the other side in a moment once I can get it into these soft jaws here. And crucially, I haven't done the last two grades of paper this way on the top and bottom surface, largely because I don't want to mess it up by putting it in the soft jaws even. So I'll do that final polish once I've done the edges, and then we'll put it all on the rag wheel, and then we'll clean it off, we'll paint it, laser etch a rose onto the front, chemical etch it, clean the paint off again, and probably have to buff it again. We'll find out. I have absolutely no idea how the chemical etching is going to go. It's the first time I've ever done it. So it's looking a lot better. Now I need to go across the top of these two, which I will do on the anvil. We'll go from here. Alright, I'll see you back in another couple of hours. Alright, now I've got it about as polished as we're going to get with the 1200 grit paper. Now we're going to go over to the rag wheel. Now the interesting bit is going to be the face here, where I know this white metal polishes much more quickly than the brass. So I'm going to start with the face, because if I mess that up, everything else is for naught. So we're going to fire this up. A little bit of iron oxide buffing compound just on the wheel. I'm going to use my dob stick method here. It's just a whole lot easier to hold. But I'm going to go very gently as opposed to my usual polishing technique here. Normally I'd be pretty rough because I hadn't gone through all the grades of sandpaper. This is really just to give it a bit of shine. I've done most of the polishing with sandpaper already. Well, that little thing there where it grabbed the disc, that's why there's a piece of foam down there, in case it grabs it and flings it off. Right, let's give this a little bit of a polish, and just with a rag here, and see what it's going to look like. Wow, that is going to be nice. There's still some scratches in the surface. I can continue to buff them out, but this is going to look awesome. So I'm going to keep going with this, just gentle buffing a little bit at a time, and we'll get there. I really hope I've got my angle right, because I can't see the viewfinder on the GoPro. So we'll do this one more cycle and we'll show you what it looks like, and then I'll do some more off camera, because this is a lengthy process, and this is probably a fairly decently long video at this stage. Alright, let's get that rag happening. That rag has probably seen better days. Alright, so there's still a bit of stuff on here, but it's... Oh, I just put my thumb in the wax. Let's clean that off a little bit. Wow, this is a useless rag. It's got printing and stuff all over it. And the printing is making it really hard to wipe things off. Right, I've still got a bit more to do, but that is looking quite nice. Yeah, it's kind of got some shine to it. Whoa, oh god, I'm nearly blind. I just shone it in my eyes. Alright, I've got a bit more to do with this, and then we'll look at the etching process. Alright, now we're finished with the polishing. I really need to get the lawn mowing guys out here one day. We're into the sun again. This is finished our polish. Oh, where's my camera angle? It's somewhere about here. You should be able to see it. There's some wax residue on here, and you can see some of the marks in here. It seems to be, whenever I photograph these things, they look worse than they really are. But this is nice and shiny now. It's going to get a dip in the sink with some dishwashing detergent to get some of this wax residue off, and some of the additional blue tack. And then we might do the unthinkable and spray paint over all of this, and then laser engrave a rose, although I might do some test engravings before I get the paint out with this first, so we can be sure that what we have is going to be suitable. Anyway, let's wander inside and give it a wash up. Alright, so I just went inside to show the financial manager, okay, my wife, the progress of this piece, and she went, no, don't you dare engrave it or chemical etch it. I think it's great how it is. So what she gets is what she wants, or what she wants is what she gets, rather. I'll get that right one day. Anyway, and we'll drill a hole through this, and we'll put our little ring in to go on a chain or something. We might find a decent chain on payday. So yeah, I'm going to put a little tiny circuit board drill through this, and I need to work out drill that has, or my drill press that has problems, namely that it's not plugged in at the second, and leads are a funny length here too. I think that's the right one. This is broken, I need to fix that one day. And it's unplugged at the other end. Okay, we'll get our drill press sorted out and we'll be right back. Alright, turns out my problem is the safety switch here. They don't like you running it with the lid up, but with the stock supplied pulleys, they rub inside the lid with the lid down. So the motor stalls when you start it. I need a real drill press at some point. Okay, now this is the bit I need to concentrate on, so don't expect too much commentary here. I only get one shot at this. Just alternating pressure on the drill to clear of debris as I go through. Alright, and I've gone through the top so that the burr is at the back, and we can probably polish that off or even leave it as is. Once I put a ring through there, that won't be noticeable. So that is rather nice. Now it still needs a clean in the sink. I didn't get that far. I got jumped on in the door going, that looks awesome. So we'll give it a little bit more of a run with this guy here. Chuck all my pieces out of the way here. I've got so many offcuts in here, I need to dedicate some time and energy to clean it up. This might be enough just to take the sharp off it. I think it is. Yep, that feels nice now. Alright, now I'm going to give these edges a bit of a rounding while I'm here. This is where you screw up a project you've been working on for days. It's when you go, I'll just do this one extra little bit. Want it to have more of that polished pebble feel. Alright, that's pretty good. Alright, sink time. Alright, we have our piece. Now, yes, while I've polished it up, it is very nice and shiny. Every time I touch it, I leave marks on it because I have buffing compound on my fingers. I need to really wash my hands before I handle this. Now, I do need to put a little ring on here. Now, traditionally, I would probably go and put like a silver ring or something on here, but I've been putting bits of spring steel on it because it seems to hold on to the chains a lot better than the little open silver links. And they can get a little rusty if they get wet, but they're easy to replace. Now, I'm thinking, looking at this haze around here, I'm not happy with this haze. I might go give this another quick polish. No, actually, I think that will be alright. We can probably give it a bit of a rub on the fabric here, and it will probably bring most of that out. I think it will. Alright, the inclusions in the back are just going to have to go with it. So, no, alright, I know what I'm like. I'm going to stare at these little bits of haze, and it's going to bother me forevermore. So I'm going to go out and give them another quick buff. Alright, we took it out and polished it a little bit more. I'm much happier with the result. This looks awesome. I'll give you a close-up look. It's pretty well mirror finish at this point. You can probably see my YouTube playlist in the background here. Let's see if you can. My apprentice is losing in Roblox or Minecraft, I'm not sure which. You can probably hear her losing her cool in the background. I will address that later. I think I'm going to take one of these rings and chop that off the spring when I don't have things stuck together here. Shove my springs over in the spring bay, and we'll see if we can get this in an appropriate method. I usually try and feed this into the jaws so that where I cut it is an appropriate place to use for it. There we go. There's our ring, and it did stick to these, which says this is definitely steel. The challenge is going to be getting this on. I have a couple of tricks I usually use, namely wedging a spudger in the middle here, which you probably can't see for my fingers, but this is about the only convenient way I can get into this gap. I'm going to insert this from the back so that any scratches we make on it are less apparent. No, I need something bigger to get in there this time. I think the pliers are going to be the trick for this one. Let's see if we can get you in here without causing too much damage. I think practice has made perfect here. I think it's gone in. There we go. We have a ring on the top. Now I really would like to have experimented with chemical etching on this one, and I will certainly do that in the future because I have plans to work with some more synthetic opals as well. So anyway, I will go present this one. Now normally I would have done a reaction video with this, but I'm not sure how my financial manager is going to react. I think she doesn't like to be on camera all that much. I'll go and ask her, why not? Okay, well she was asleep, so I think we'll finish this video here. She's been in quite a bit of pain lately, and the medication she's taking for it does make her somewhat sedate, so we'll deal with that another day. Here's me hiding behind my GoPro. I like it when I get mirror finish working nicely. I'm actually kind of happy with this, even with the inclusions in the back. I don't have a map gas torch, so filling them in is going to be difficult. Anyway, I will present this to her when she wakes up, and I'm pretty sure I'll have a decent result on this. And I can bounce my eyebrows up and down in response to her response to this. Anyway, I hope you found it interesting. This is probably a marathon long video. I'm not sure how I'm going to edit it. It was going to be about 30% longer because I was going to go through an experimental chemical etching process. I am now not, so that will be for another video. But let's get this happening, and I hope you enjoyed the video. It's all thumbs up, I guess. And as usual, it doesn't matter if you like and subscribe, it's appreciated, but I don't make any money from this channel and I despise ads. So if you want to subscribe and see what I'm doing, that's perfectly fine. If you don't, that's fine also. So let's move on. I'm going to clean my thumbs so when I stick them up at people, they don't get scared. And we'll see you all in the next video. Have fun, guys. Stay cool.